You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet. That you showed up was written in my palm. You are a statement, explode like a bomb. I get to push myself to victory. You make me winner. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day.
Hey, welcome to Sunday Live Spiritual Direction and Soul Care every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So glad that we can all be together in this awesome growing community of wisdom and healing and transformation. I am up at our vacation spot. It's rainy, so I hope the internet stays all good today. But we are so glad to be together. If you are watching, I want to invite you to join us at our growing community on Facebook, private Facebook page. Come on over there. It's where you can connect with more people, interact, get support, get other resources, get other content. Come on over and join it. Invite a friend to join us as well. And over the last few weeks, we have initiated a new thing that we're doing in the middle of the week, every other week. We do midweek meditation. The last one was really incredible and healing for folks. If you've been at midweek meditation, whether you're watching right now or on the replay, throw in there your thoughts, how it's impacting you, how it was helpful. Our last session was incredibly healing and powerful, safe space of openness as well as groundedness. It was healing and awesome. So our next one is October 13th, 7 p.m. You can find the links for the Zoom links for midweek meditation at the Facebook page. Also, check out Spiritual Direction and soulcare.com, where you can learn more about our soul care program. You can give and support the work, and other things are there as well. We have been going through a journey called Thriving in Uncertainty, looking at 7 different strategies to thrive in uncertainty. And I've got a ton of material to cover today. So what we're going to do is, instead of doing our kind of like 1 minute breath and stillness, I just want us to jump right in today. We're going to break it up a little bit, do something a little different. I want to encourage you that we're building on our most basic spiritual practices of breathing, centering, prayer, giving ourselves the gift of stillness. We're building on that practice by having midweek meditation. So come on over next Wednesday, the 13th, and join us there. But today, I really want to dive into this material because I am really excited about just some really, again, insanely practical tools for the spiritual journey. So we're just going to jump right in today, if that's cool with y'all. So here we are. We're in part 4 of Thriving in Uncertainty. And during this journey, like I said, we've been looking at 7 strategies that help us do that. And what we've been looking at is these 7 strategies are grounded in the work of Dr. Christine Carter. We're getting some insanely practical tools for this basic reality that's built into life, because uncertainty is part of life. Ambiguity is part of life, and it affects us to our very core, and it's hard, right? Because we crave certainty. We're kind of hardwired to make sense of the world by giving ourselves a story or a narrative that helps us be clear, even if it's not true, even if it's negative, even if it's harmful. We're hardwired to give ourselves some sense of this is how it really is. And it's hard for us to lean into uncertainty and ambiguity. And sometimes, though, it can be better for us to learn to live with it, to inhabit it, to see how it creates space for new gifts, new insights, new opportunities, new awarenesses, right? So how can we best cope when everything feels out of control, or there's a lot of change, or just that anxiety that sometimes we feel? Well, we've talked about each week, I list out there's 7 strategies, right? And we've talked about don't resist reality, invest in yourself. You are worthy of your own attention, right? Find healthy ways to comfort yourself. So sustainable, healthy ways to comfort yourself. 4 is don't believe everything you think, right? Don't believe everything you think. That's what we're talking about today. 5 is pay attention. 6 is stop looking for someone else to rescue you. And 7, find meaning in the chaos. So don't believe every thought. That's today. Don't believe everything you think, right? Many types of thoughts prevent you from living free and healing. For example, fearful thoughts can narrow your thinking and prevent you from taking action. Stressful thoughts create discomfort in the present moment. Anxious thoughts create unpleasant feelings about the future. Distracting thoughts pull your attention away from the things that matter most to you. And you can't always control, right, when these thoughts will surface, but you can develop strategies for responding to them in a way that doesn't bring you down. The most basic truth that gives you these powers is that your thoughts are not always true, so you don't have to believe them. Perhaps the most powerful strategy, right, for thriving is not to believe everything I think, right? In uncertain times, it's particularly important not to believe thoughts that argue for the worst case scenario, okay? Now, of course, it can be helpful to consider worst case scenarios so we can actively prevent or prepare for a disaster. But when we believe those stressful thoughts, we tend to react emotionally as though the worst case is already happening in real life, not just in our heads. And so we grieve for things we actually haven't lost, and we react to events that are not actually happening, right? And that makes us feel threatened and afraid and unsafe when we are simply believing our thoughts. So instead of buying into every stressful thought, we can actively imagine the best possible scenario too, right? We can reframe our understanding and tell ourselves a better story to replace the ruminations that we have in our mind. Like when we started Spiritual Direction and Soul Care, one of the first things we talked about was how ruminations can lead to ruin. Ruminations can lead to ruin. What if this and da 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 da, even though nothing has ever happened, there's been no evidence to the contrary. I'm going to freak out, right? Ruminations can lead to ruin. So we can reframe our understanding and tell ourselves a better story. And that counters our natural tendency. We have this natural tendency to overestimate risks and negative consequences. So thoughts drive through our minds all the time, right? They're like traffic. They might flow smoothly, but sometimes they also back up, causing a traffic jam. And when they collide, that impact can throw us to our very core. It can make you anxious and depressed or generally distressed. However, just because they are driving through your mind, it doesn't mean they represent an actual objective reality. They are more often a figment of your imagination than an actual observation. That's one of the things you have to ask yourself. Am I actually observing this happening? Is this what's actually happening, right? Is this what's actually happening, right? Terry says trauma can actually destroy the imagination, the brain's ability to tell the positive story. Right. That's right. That's absolutely right. And that's why we have to have kind of spiritual tools and instruments and tactics and strategies, right, that help us re-engage, right? To help us rebuild, to practice this back up, because the power of what we have within us is that while trauma can destroy certain things, we have the power to heal as well, right? We can patiently, slowly, and with support and kindness around us, maybe even with, especially if you have therapists and other supportive professionals, they can really help you rebuild those abilities, right? Get back in touch with the healing power that's within you, right? Right? People have all kinds of thoughts all the time, right? It's hard to be a person, right? And we often direct our thoughts as we consider certain issues at hand, but thoughts also frequently happen to us. They flow through our minds and they're propelled by some unconscious source. The thoughts can be positive, they can be negative, they can be neutral, but they can be particularly upsetting when they are self-critical or create distress, right? Such as thoughts like, I never do anything right, or my boss thinks I'm an idiot, or I'm never going to land that job. And when you pay attention to your thoughts, you discover that you don't intellectually believe some that feel true. That in your mind, intellectually speaking, you don't really believe some of those things. For example, you may think your boss thinks you're an idiot. And even though you feel like it's true, right? However, when you reflect on your actual interactions with them, your boss might praise you at different times. You might realize that this thought doesn't really make sense, right? So in circumstances like this, it can just help to remind yourself, just because I feel it, just because it feels true, that doesn't make it true, right? You can weaken many inaccurate and distressing beliefs by noting the conflict between your felt truth and your actual observed truth. And so to effectively use this way of challenging yourself, it's really important to be persistent, right? First, practice recognizing the distressing thoughts that repeatedly enter your consciousness, right? Recognizing these thoughts. This is a distressing thought that's happening, right? You can just be conscientious about doing this. And sometimes people use meditation or mindfulness exercises to help. That's what we do at Midweek Meditation, right? Join us October 13th, 7 p.m. on Zoom. This is where we're building those skills to be conscientious of, and what I like to say, bring kind awareness to what we're actually doing to ourselves, right? And then what you do is you remind yourself that just thinking it doesn't make it true. And you can try to respond with a counter statement, such as, not only doesn't she think I'm an idiot, she doesn't think I'm an idiot, but she's shown that she respects my work at times, right? And with repetition, the objectively inaccurate and upsetting thought becomes increasingly less powerful until you don't really believe it anymore, right? So it's practice. It's a practice. It's an exercise, right? It's a power that you have. So while reflecting on distressing thoughts will sometimes reveal them to be worthy of concern, sometimes as you reflect, you go, oh, this actually is legit, right? At other times, you're going to discover that they are more a product of your perceptions, right? And that increasing awareness, that kind awareness of inaccurate felt truths can free you from their grip, right? Seeing them for what they are can help you go, oh, yeah. I don't know what that's about, why that's in here, but that's what's happening for me, right? You know? Judy says, I so appreciate this, checking and ridding the mind of assumptive thinking. I like that phrase. And realizing that fear-based thoughts in particular usually contain a lie designed to distance you and from God's presence and your true potential. It's such a good thing for mental and spiritual health. When we proclaim or believe negative thoughts as fact, we actually hand over our power as children of God to those thoughts. On the other hand, when we question and exercise discernment of our own thoughts, not self-judgment, I think we can actually rewire our brains more in alignment with truth, right? And it takes practice, right? Because like Terry has said, trauma really screws up your brain, right? It literally will physically screw up your brain, right? And so these practices take time, right? I don't want to hear this. I don't want you to hear that I'm saying, just do this and you'll be fine tomorrow, right? Like some of us have been really harmed consistently and continually. So it's going to take time. It's going to take time. You're not alone. You can do this journey with us. You can do this journey with a therapist. You can do this journey with loved ones. You can do this. And most important, the God who is a God of healing and love is always present and always working and is your primary partner in this journey. You can do this. But remember, it takes time. It's not a quick snap, instant product thing, right? You're not failing if you have to take time to do the work of healing that you need, okay? I just want to always be clear of this, right? I mean, also, by observing this struggle, right, it helps you develop compassionate self-awareness, right? Kind awareness, right? That is your greater awareness of the pain these perceptions are causing you, right? Might lead to you having compassion, for your struggles. Have compassion for your struggles, just as you would probably quickly have compassion for a friend who's struggling, right? Don't exempt yourself from what you would give to another, right? In the end, you're not only going to let go of inaccurate felt truths, but you're also going to develop a more positive way of caring and relating to yourself, okay? So just remember, bottom line, suffering is optional in this instance. Suffering is optional, right? So let's talk about some strategies to let it go, right? Some thoughts appear in an instant. Others are recurring and represent a longer standing story that you tell yourself in your mind. And given the different nature of those thoughts, it's helpful to equip yourself with multiple strategies to process them, right? So one of the first things is to just, how do we let go of temporary thoughts in the moment? Right? 1 minute you might be feeling down about a challenge at work, and the next minute you're laughing at the joke of a friend, right? Examples like this can highlight all of our thoughts and their respective mental states. These are all temporary, right? This fact gives you the power to avoid getting swept away when negative thoughts arise. One teacher calls this noting, mental noting, right? And it's a technique that comes out of meditation. So with noting, you gently note thoughts or sensations as they arise in your mind by just giving them a simple one-word descriptor, right? Like, that's a warm thought, that's a tense feeling, that's anger, whatever it is, right? Make note of that. Notice it, right? And noticing what arises in your mind has this host of benefits, right? Because it helps you stay present to the what's happening right then and see the contents of your mind more clearly. And it creates space between you and the thoughts you experience, which gives you more power to act with intention about it, right? So you can put this into action by just simply observing what arises in your mind, right? That's what kind awareness is. Just observing what's happening in your mind, whether it's a thought or a sensation, right? And you just note that thought with gentle curiosity. Give it a one-word name, something like, oh, I see fear in my mind. Oh, I feel anxiety in my gut. Okay. And you let that pass by. You resist the urge to latch on to the thought or feeling, let it take you for a ride. And in time, it will fade as the predominant sensation, right? You're not fighting it and saying, get away, get away, get away, anger, get away, fear, get away, anxiety. You just go, oh, that's what's happening right now. I'm going to ride it, right? And you can let it pass by, right? You aren't pinning the thought down or pushing it away. Instead, you're lightly acknowledging that's real, that's happening, so it can pass you by. Mm-hmm. Another way is to let go of recurring narratives, like stories we tell ourselves over and over and over. Everyone experiences recurring thoughts that create dissatisfaction or frustration or suffering for us at some point, right? And oftentimes these are always wrapped around should thoughts or social obligation thoughts, right? The world should be different, or my significant other should be different, right? These people should have acted differently, right? You shouldn't have said that to me, right? Whatever it is, right? Thoughts like these are persistent, right? And it can feel like your mind is a broken record, kind of coming back to the stressful thought over and over and over. There's a really wise teacher, Byron Katie. She says, I discovered that when I believed my thoughts, I suffered, but that when I didn't believe them, I didn't suffer. And that this is true for every human being. Freedom is as simple as that. I found that suffering is optional. I found a joy within me that never disappears, not for a single moment. And that joy is waiting in everyone always. The gist is simple, right? Believing your thoughts often leads to suffering. This means suffering is optional because your thoughts are not always true, and you can choose not to get swept away by your thoughts. So here's some practical steps to do what Byron Katie calls the work. Okay. You have 4 questions of inquiry and 3 turnarounds. 4 questions of inquiry and 3 turnarounds. Okay. So 4 questions of inquiry. You start by locating a thought that's causing you suffering. Maybe you're having trouble with another person in your life, right? And when you've identified a thought that creates suffering for you, go through these 4 questions. Is it true? Is it true? Yes or no, right? If no, you go to this question. Does the thought create peace or stress? Does it create peace or stress? What emotions and physical sensations are arriving when you believe this thought, right? As we've addressed and talked about before, right? Most thoughts are just stories. They aren't universal truths about the world. And so this question, is it true? My mom used to like to say, where is that written, right? This question forces you and me to consider that reality in a specific context, right? Is that reality in this context? Really? Right? I mean, and can you absolutely know that it's true if you think it is true? Yes or no? Like you might feel insistent that this thought, this story is true. It really does feel true at first glance, but really think about it, right? The second question is, can you really know that it's true? I mean, be honest with yourself. If it's not true, then how do you react? What happens when you believe the thought, right? Examine what you're doing to yourself by choosing to hold on to and believe that thought that is likely not true. Right? And again, does the thought create peace or stress? What's happening in you emotionally and physically when you believe this story, right? And your 4th question then is who would you be without that thought? Who would you be without it? Consider what it would be like if you let go of this thought that brings you down. How would you feel? Right? That gives you an imagination for transformation. It gives you an imagination for what could be, right? The second part is 3 turnarounds, right? And the turnarounds help reveal the contradictory nature of our stories about other people and how our judgments are also true or truer for ourselves, right? And by understanding this, it makes it easier to let go of these disempowering thoughts. Okay. Let go of these disempowering thoughts. There are 3 types of turnarounds: to myself, turn around to the other, and to the opposite. So for the sake of an example, let's say you're feeling upset with your friend Gina. Gina's back, okay? And had the thought, Gina should be nicer to me. Now, turning that statement around in 3 ways, consider how the following are as true or truer. You turn around to yourself and you say, but I should be nicer to myself. How often do you get down on yourself and criticize yourself and prevent yourself from being happy? To the other, when you turn to the other, you say, well, I should be nicer to Gina. I mean, how often do you react to Gina's actions in a way that isn't kind? Right? And the third turnaround is, Gina should not be nicer to me. Might you have acted in a way that makes it reasonable to understand Gina's actions? See, seeing that the thoughts which cause you suffering are not the truth helps you let go of them so you can focus instead on loving what is true, right? Loving what is true. So you can see your thoughts for what they are. All thoughts are temporary, and most of them aren't universally true. Although that can sound sad and uncomfortable, in reality, it's empowering. And this principle gives you the power to take control of how you respond to your thoughts as you go through life. It helps you let go of thoughts that bring you down so you can cultivate greater peace and joy. So you can start by noting thoughts and feelings with gentle curiosity as they arise. And when you find yourself face to face with a more intense thought or an interpersonal conflict, use these questions and turnarounds to see more clearly. And when you stop believing everything you think, you give yourself the opportunity to be more proactive and to live the life you want to live and to love the truth of what is truly there before you. Amen. That's it today, you guys. That's it today. Diana says, I use the radio analogy as well. If you're in a car by yourself and a song comes on that you don't like, what do? Do you change the station or force yourself to listen to the song you don't like? We can do the same with our thoughts and change the station or song in our heads. I love it. I love it. We have this power to heal. We have this power to heal. Somebody just walked in the house and is making the dog bark, of course, because that's what people do around here. So, yeah, that's great about the radio. Yeah. The radio of your mind doing the thing. The radio of your mind doing the thing, you know, like you have the power to change it. Okay. It's awesome. I love it. I love it. Don't believe every thought, you guys. Don't believe every thought. It's the 4th tactic. It's the 4th strategy, and you can do it. Oh, spiritual direction, soul care. We're a little shorter today. I think I'm having some internet issues, but I'm so glad to spend time together. If you're watching on the broadcast or the replay, put your thoughts in, how you're thinking, how you're moving through these 7 strategies. We're at strategy 4. I can't wait to talk about the last 3 over the next couple of weeks. And we will see you guys at Midweek Meditation on October 13 at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Check it out on our Facebook page for the links. You guys are awesome and amazing, and it's been so good to spend time together again on Sunday Live. Peace to y'all, and have an awesome, awesome week.
You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me. You're blessing me every day. I was down with an illusion, like a sparrow with broken wings. But now I shine with your reflection on me. I'm getting back up on my feet.